Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to call the September 4th meeting of the Common Council to order. I will ask our clerk to call the roll to determine a quorum.
Alderperson Rote.
Here.
Sengstack.
Here.
Vitale.
Excused.
Weigel.
Here.
Barzak.
Here.
Chaplesky.
Here.
Lysick.
Here.
May.
Here.
Probst.
Here.
Franke.
Here.
9 present, 1 excused.
We have a quorum. Alderman Rote's lined up for the pledge this evening, but he has guests. He has invited Troop 580 from Mount Hope Lutheran to present the colors and do the Pledge of Allegiance. So I ask everybody to stand.
Audience attention. Color guard, please present the colors. Please post the colors. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
2. Color guard dismissed.
Thank you. We'll now move on to item D on our agendas, public hearings. We have 3 items this evening. I will ask the clerk to read the first item.
A hearing on the special use permit for Cornerstone Christian Life Tabernacle, a proposed religious institution to be located at 5433 West Burnham Street.
Mr. Stiebel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On south of Burnham on 55th Street is this building. It was an old credit union. You may recall a couple years ago we approved a special use for another church, but it did not go in there. This new church, Cornerstone Christian Life Tabernacle, has applied for a special use for that site. The zoning obviously is the same. The hours of operation are very similar to what was previously approved. And because it's an old historic site, today we would require 29 parking spaces, but only 6, at least 6 are available on that site. You could probably put a lot more on there. The landscaping plans are going to be the same as they were for the church, which will be putting some green space along the edge of the building, put a new fence in, and also to paint the building. The Plan Commission has reviewed this, has recommended approval, and we've received 1 objection to date. If you have additional questions, I'm glad to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Stiebel. Are there any questions from the council on this item? Okay, are there any questions or comments from the audience on this item? I'd ask that you state your name and address for the record and sign in either before or after your comments. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Amy Heron and I live at 1918 South 55th Street, West Allis, 53219. I live in the house literally just to the south of the credit union. First of all, I have to tell you that I'm very excited that the Tabernacle has decided to move in there. The credit union's been empty now for about 3 years, and I don't think I need to tell you guys that vacant buildings sometimes leads to unwanted circumstances, so I'm thrilled that they're going in there. I had an opportunity to meet some of the Tabernacle people a couple weeks ago, and I had a concern that I just wanted to bring to your attention today. They mentioned that there's some black cement or blacktop or whatever on the west side of the building that they're going to have to remove. And I'm not exactly sure why. The blacktop is not, it's not an eyesore, it's in good condition. Granted, it's not pretty, but it's not, I don't feel that it's something that the tabernacle should have to go through the cost of digging up. I'm not a house expert or a building expert, but I would think that if they have to dig that area up, that it just could possibly lead into drainage problems for them in the future. I just think that as a city, and especially in these times, that we should be encouraging, in this case, a religious institution to come to the city, and when you have to deal with circumstances such as this, it could perhaps lead people to not want to be here in the city. So, but again, I'm thrilled that they're there, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions or comments from the audience on our first public hearing this evening? Okay, we will close our first public hearing. I will ask the clerk to read public hearing number 2.
A hearing on the special use permit for Easter Seals Administrative Headquarters, adult daycare services, and occupational and physical therapy services to be located at 2222 South 114th Street.
Mr. Stiebel?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. North of Greenfield Avenue and east of 114th Street is this current development. And in this building, the Easter Seals are proposing to relocate their offices for the area, as well as some additional operations. They'll be doing adult daycare for about 30 people for the mentally handicapped or disabled, and about 25 children will also be at this site, along with the employees for their corporate headquarters for this area. Because it's zoned M1 and it's going to be used for these purposes, it requires a special use, and that's the reason for the public hearing today. Hours of operation will be 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. The Easter Seals will also be using the existing site and landscaping plan that's previously been approved, and I believe 89 parking spaces are provided, and I believe about 69 parking spaces would be required if it was new. All they'll do for landscaping is just maintain the existing plan. The Plan Commission has reviewed this, has recommended approval, and we've received no objections to date. If you have additional questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Stiebel. Are there any questions from the Common Council on this item?
Mr. Mayor?
Alderman Weigel.
Mr. Stiebel, is the Easter Seal Society buying this property, or are they just leasing it?
I think they're buying it.
Was this currently a taxable property, and now we're anticipating it to come off the tax rolls?
It is currently a taxable property. We are currently in discussions with Easter Seals, but we have not reached any decision yet.
Okay, so you're talking to them about whether they'd be interested in making a pilot payment to the city?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Are there any other questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, are there any questions or comments from the audience on this item? Okay, we will close our second public hearing, and I will ask the clerk to read public hearing number 3.
A hearing on an ordinance to amend the official West Allis zoning map by rezoning a portion of the property at 9306 West Greenfield Avenue from RA3 Residence District to C2 Neighborhood Commercial District.
Mr. Stiebel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This building just north of Greenfield Avenue is currently in a split zone area. That is, most of the site is zoned C2 commercial, and then the very northern part of that site is zoned residential. And we have a number of properties throughout that area, and we try to fix those whenever we come across them. And the owner of the building has asked if they could have this section rezoned. If you have additional questions, I'd be glad to answer them. We will not be recommending taking any action tonight until after the Plan Commission meets at the end of the month. If you have any additional questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Stiebel. Are there any questions from the council on this item?
Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Barzak.
John, as you're well aware, in the past, there was a secondhand store in there, but before that, there was a secondhand store that caused most of the problems that we had in that area. And of course, the problems came with the back of the property. And in the back of the property, there is no loading dock. And it's always a concern that when the trucks come in, that of course, hours of operation when the trucks would arrive, how many trucks are going to arrive to load and unload, when it changed hands to this last owner, all deliveries, everything that was accepted came through the front doors. They never even used the back doors, and it was agreed upon that the rear end would be for employee parking only. Has any of that changed? Is there anything in place that we're going to assure the residents that we don't have truck traffics and trucks idling in the winter and lights into the neighbors' houses and things like that?
We will be taking some additional look at that issue. One of the proposed future tenants would be a Family Dollar, and they would be limited to one truck a week at that particular site.
And I imagine that would be through the hours of Monday through Friday and something like 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.?
7 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Okay, I could live with that. And then the other one, of course, would be the refuge containers. There are no refuge containers back there currently. I would assume that that would be all landscaped if the refuge containers were put back there, because Family Dollar, again, is going to have quite a few boxes, et cetera, and they're going to have to somehow get rid of the cardboard and things like that. Now, I don't know, in the past, they're not at that location, but where the drugstore currently is, they had one of those box compactors that were out there, and of course you press that button and it makes, you know, all kinds of noise. So I don't know if they're going to do something like that, but I think we should look at that also. Is there going to be a compactor there? You know, how are the boxes going to be taken care of? Where are the dumpsters going to be? Are they going to be enclosed? Because, like I said, that's an alley. It's not screened. It's, you know, directly behind the residence, and we need to look at all those different things back there.
Yes, we are currently looking at that. We'll be taking that up prior to getting to Plan Commission, and that will be responded to before it comes back to you for a vote on this.
Very good, thank you.
But we're anticipating that they'll have 3 pickups a week, and that there would not be a trash compactor. But all those issues are still yet to be worked out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Barzak. Are there any other questions from the council? Okay, are there any questions or comments from the audience on our third public hearing this evening? Okay, seeing none, we will close public hearing number 3. And we're going to move on to item E on your agendas, citizen participation. This is an opportunity for residents to address the council on issues of concern to them. We ask that you try to keep your comments to 5 minutes, and we try to keep the session in about 30 minutes long. So again, if you could sign in before or after on the clipboard. And we have
Carol Graham, 1808 South 63rd Street. Mr. Mayor and Council, I'm here for 2 reasons. One, I'm extremely upset with some of our council members to even think that they would not give the Fire and Police Commission the $10,000 we need to go either internally or externally for a new chief. I find it appalling that I watched that tape when it's on the TV at least 3 or 4 times. It's like a bunch of little kids fighting over a candy bar and saying, well, no, no, no. You have to think of the citizens of West Allis. Whether we find our chief internally or externally, that money should have been there, and you should not have batted an eye. Second of all, I have lived in the city of West Allis for 67 years. I was born on 60th and Burnham. Burnham Street is turning into a ghetto. It's been going downhill for years. All those buildings going east on 60th and Burnham are vacant. There used to be Mechanic's drugstore, a butcher, a little A&P store, Heinemann's Bakery. There was Hefty's. There was the dime store. There was the tavern that is still there, and there was Niepientek's jeweler. And all of that is gone. If you look at it as a reality, that was your first strip mall back in the 50s. Everything you needed was there, and you've let it all go to waste. Basically, those buildings are owned by somebody. Make them do something with them. Why let the East End fall off the end of the earth. It's always that way. It's the East End. Well, it's the East End. We had the same trouble when we were fighting for West Milwaukee High School in the school district. It's the East End. Once you pass 76th Street, man, you're done. They don't care what happens down here. Look what's all happened down on this East End in the last couple of weeks. And you don't give them more money to look for a chief internally or externally. You've got vacant buildings everywhere, just begging for trouble, and you don't do anything about it. Why are we electing you, and why are you sitting there when you're not doing nothing about anything except fighting? Well, I don't think they should have that, and they don't need that much, and something stupid will come along and you'll write them a check. Stop and think. Why did we put you in the seats you're in? Because you said you were going to be there for us. And what I saw on that tape, you were not there for us. Have a good evening.
Thank you for your comments.
Robert Brown, 2160 South 86th Street. I came here tonight. I'll be on national television next week talking about civil rights and wrongdoings of cities and so forth. They're from Chicago. They've called me down there before for wrongful arrest, wrongdoing. And that brings me right up here to West Allis. I'm glad this lady got up here and talked. And it's the same thing that goes on up here while they're calling me down there. We got the police department wasting their time on a lot of nothing. And let me just bring, I'm glad she talked about what's going on the east side. We have a huge amount of police presence on 72nd and Lincoln, watching people who have a house that their lawn looks like a golf course. They feed birds and squirrels. They got squad cars, 3, 4 of them there at a time. They've issued thousands of dollars in citations. The latest is the case went to circuit court. Bonnie Gordon, the circuit court judge, called it frivolous. She said that it's not worth wasting time on. Remanded it back to the city of West Allis. Judge, the Honorable Judge Murphy, and the case come back here. She didn't want nothing to do with it. So your elite city attorney, Jana Murden, gets in the court. I was sitting there listening. What does she say? Oh, we don't. Murphy said, well, why don't we just give him back the money? You know, these fines, they spend thousands, get this done with. Jana Murden says, no way. These people, they're going back to circuit court. How can you do it? It's against the law. They've already paid for a jury trial. They've been there 7 or 8 times. They won't hear the case. They sent it back to West Allis. West Allis won't do nothing. Janet Murden just sent it back for another trial. And as you know, you've got a lawsuit pending, what is it, about $400,000 in this case, and I'm sure it's going to escalate. I hope it does. I hope your fingers get burned. If you can spend hundreds of hours actually on this case, and what brings this case on? A lady across the street, I'm not going to use names here, is a friend of the city attorney. They're buddies, and they want this man and his landlady persecuted because the squirrels walk across the street and bury a couple nuts in their lawns. That's it. That's all the case is about. Yet it goes on and on and on and drags on. I've got other things to do in my life. I'm suing West Allis too over another matter. I've got other cases to take care of and other things. I'm getting sick and tired of dealing with this squirrel case. It's got to come to an end. I hope, though, maybe it's got to increase in value to maybe $1 million for all the harassment going on. How would you like to live there? Squad cars coming on a regular basis. And, oh, we got a complaint, sir. A bird flew over on your neighbor's lawn and put a peanut shell on their lawn. These lawns are pieces, they look like, I won't describe them. It's pretty bad what they look like. But these people that are getting persecuted got lawns that look like a golf course. Beautiful. I guess in closing, I hope I don't have to come here no more. I hope this case gets settled. I hope mine gets settled. By the way, I did win my jury trial in West Allis for this frivolous case. And Janet Murden decided she wants to appeal it to the appellate court. She thinks they gave wrong jury instructions on my case. Some more money wasted. Why don't you spend your time fighting crime on the east side like that lady that was up here suggested? I used to be down there. I started the Good Samaritan as one of the stores sitting down there. And I was down there, and I used to erase some of the graffiti and be involved. And I'll tell you what, my whole involvement with trying to do anything worthwhile ends up in West Allis with a big 0, because nobody wants you to do anything. Apparently, everybody sitting up here knows better than citizens. I hope it changes, and I hope something worthwhile comes out of whatever is going to happen in Chicago next week, that we can talk about civil rights. I hope West Allis starts straightening up their civil rights, because you are violating the rights of these people that feed, because in their older age decide to feed a squirrel and a bird, and you find them thousands of dollars for no reason. It's the most stupidest case I ever seen in my life. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anybody else that wishes to address the council under citizen participation this evening?
Yes, I'm William McCarver. I am one of the parties involved in the feeding of birds and squirrels. And my comments on the matter also correlate with what the lady was saying. I watched the programming as well, and they said that $2,500 for a psychological evaluation and whatnot. Well, I had the police out at the house a couple of weeks ago, where one of the complainants about feeding birds was blowing garbage all over the neighborhood with his leaf blower because he was doped up and drunk. And they said there's nothing illegal about being drunk, so what he was doing is fine because it was on city property in which he was blowing all kinds of garbage from the curb, in the curb lane, out into the middle of the street, all over, bottles, paper, whatever, and they thought it was funny and they left. They're not going to provoke me, so why they do that, I have no idea, but I got the whole thing on video. Now we got one instance of him standing in front of the truck telling me I should be ashamed of myself because of 4 peanut shells underneath of a tree. But this guy's blowing the garbage that this lady across the street, who's friends with the city, had dug up out of her yard and placed out on the curb. His friend threw that out in the road, and they're blowing that all over everybody's yard, and that's okay. I called the police station. The sergeant in charge that night, he also said it was okay, so I extracted that phone call as well. So I've got all this evidence, as well as 3 years of hundreds of tapes, thousands of items, pictures, all kinds of information. Cornell University. Boy Scouts here can tell you about trait characteristics of animals. In their lifetime, they're not going to see enough of it change to actually call it evolution. Therefore, squirrels are going to do what squirrels do, rats are going to do what rats do, and these isolated 1 in a million, you're going to have to document it in order to substantiate it, like digging up a road and the rat's going to just move into a neighborhood. That's a rarity. It don't happen. And you know, there's got to be a food source. They're not attracted by what the property value is. They're attracted by the scent of food. And if they don't smell it, they don't come. Peanut shells have no nutritional value because they're like sawdust or like cardboard or paper or anything else inornate that has no value. So back to the subject at hand, I'm not sure what they're waiting on to try this case with. The evidence ain't going to change. There was no rats, there are no rats. The DNR tells you to feed birds and squirrels. They give you instructions on how to do so. Till you can override what they send pamphlets out, and I just got 2 last week from the DNR, and they're the same as the ones I got last February. Unless you can override what they say, I think the DNR trumps the municipal, and as long as I'm in compliance with the ordinance, which states my feeders have to be X amount of feet off the ground, I raised them higher than that. I don't know what else I can possibly do. Now, to say that I could be responsible for a blue jay grabbing a peanut and where he goes with it, That's yet to been proven in court anywhere. And I guess West Allis believes they have the legal ability to generate that kind of a scenario or whatever. I'm not sure. But bottom line is I'm not giving up on this end, and we're not going to forget about it. So I'm not sure why this case is just dragging on. Why don't they just fight it? If they think they can win it, I mean, why don't they fight it? And I know you can't respond, but you can, after this meeting is over with, get with the city attorney and find out why she's dragging her feet, because it's going on 3 years.
You have 1 minute remaining.
Okay. But as far as the squirrels migrating in from the wild, I've got books that reflect back on observations from as far as Lewis and Clark and Darwin. Squirrels don't migrate in, they migrate out. Even if it's a nut grove, the supply of food has no bearing on them leaving. They get harassed by the other squirrels and they leave because of pressure. And only so many squirrels territorially will operate an area, and that's a fact. I mean, it's no different than horses in a corral or many other things. Dogs have their pecking order, and the science is going to be in there. When you arrest a drunk and they fall out of their car, you still got to run them through the sobriety test, and that's in every court of law, and it's going to be the same with this. There's going to have to be some science in here, not just gossip, hearsay, and rumors.
That's time.
That's good enough.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anybody else that wishes to address the council under citizen participation this evening? Okay, seeing none, we will close citizen participation and move on to item F on your agendas. Our standing committees will meet during recess, and those room numbers are on page 2 on your agendas. Brings us to item G, miscellaneous business. The mayor's report. I just want to thank our police department, not only the West Allis Police Department, for their work with Wauwatosa, the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Department, the State Patrol, and the State Fair Park Police for their well-done coordinated effort excuse me, in keeping the state fair safe this year. We had very minor incidents throughout the 10 days, and they were very well prepared. We got a lot of assistance from other agencies, which I want to publicly thank them for. And the other thing I want to mention just briefly is that school is in, and I just want to remind everybody that there are a lot of little people crossing our streets these days, so I ask you all to drive carefully. That concludes the mayor's report this evening. Are there any alderperson's comments?
Mr. Mayor?
Alderman Weigel?
I mentioned it at the last meeting, but I just wanted to give another formal thank you to everybody that was involved with another successful Booster Club fundraiser where we were parking cars at the soon-to-be-developed Mykonos site on 82nd and Greenfield. Again, this was a good partnership with the school district, the West Allis, Hale, and Central Booster Clubs, local businessmen, and there's a couple people I'd like to thank personally. Jerry Motter, who's actually standing in the room over here today. Jerry was instrumental in obtaining donated light towers. Jerry also took the time out of his busy day to make sure that the towers got delivered and picked up, and also kept them fueled with diesel fuel for the run of the 11 days. The towers are actually donated, the use of the towers are donated by States Excavating. Kurt Whalen, another local businessman, owner of Aces Spray, had his firm stripe the lot. That enabled us to manage our inventory much more efficiently. I think I have one more on here. Oh yeah, I also want to thank Ken Neary and George Sotiros, the Central and Hale Booster Club presidents, who stepped up and managed it all. It's quite a big undertaking managing various sports teams, you know, the basketball team, the pom-pom squad, all the shifts that have to be covered every day. And with the beautiful weather we had at the fair this year, we raised over $50,000 for the local high school sports teams. It was, everybody understands that there will be a hotel under construction there next year, so I think everybody appreciated it, but I just want to get those personal thank yous out there.
Thank you, Alderman. Are there any other alderperson's comments this evening?
Mayor Devine?
Alderman Probst?
While he's a little too humble to have added his own name into those thank yous, which would have seemed a little self-serving, I would like to thank Alderman Weigel for showing up every single day to make sure that those lots were ready to go. He took care of the trash on his own and kept the lots ready to go every single day. That was a huge undertaking, and I would like to personally thank him.
Thank you, Alderman. Any other alderpersons' comments this evening?
Mayor Devine.
Alderman Lysick.
Madam Clerk, are there any additions or corrections to tonight's agenda?
Agenda item number 31 is withdrawn.
I then move for adoption of the agenda as amended.
Second.
There's a motion with a second by Alderman Reinke. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor Devine.
Alderman Lysick.
I move for approval of the minutes of the Common Council regular meeting of August 7th, 2012.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item J, I'll ask for a motion to refer items 5, 6, and 7 to the city attorney and place item 4 on file.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Probst, second by Alderman Barzak. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Standing committee reports. License and Health Committee. Alderman Chaplesky.
I'd like to bring everyone's attention to items number 8 through 13 of tonight's agenda. These are various license and reports. They were voted 4 people in favor, nobody opposed, and 1 person excused, to either adopt subject to necessary requirements, or to place on file. I'd like to move for the adoption of the committee's report.
Second.
There's a motion with a second by Alderman Lysick. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
That is all.
Thank you.
Mayor Devine.
I'm sorry, Alderman, before we break for recess, is there a Joseph Kirschling in the audience? We found an ID. Yeah, he'll be looking for it later. Okay. Alderman Lysick.
I move that the Common Council stand in recess until conclusion of the committee meetings.
It's a motion with a second by Alderman Sangstock. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are in recess.